Entitled mom demands I give her my house, then brings back up. I never imagined I'd be sharing something so surreal, but this incident from last weekend is still fresh in my mind, and I feel like I'm living in a twisted reality show. You hear about entitled people all the time, but you never expect to come face to face with one who goes beyond your wildest imagination. Buckle up, this story isn't just a tale of entitlement, it's a full-blown horror show of audacity. I've owned my home for about 6 years now. It's a modest 2-bedroom bungalow with a small garden and a cozy backyard. Nothing extravagant, but it's my sanctuary. I bought this place after years of hard work and saving every penny I could. I lived in a cramped apartment for over a decade, enduring noisy neighbors, thin walls, and the constant sound of traffic. My dream had always been to own a house, a place where I could find peace and privacy, away from the chaos of the city. When I finally moved in, it felt like a monumental achievement. I spent months decorating, gardening, and making it my own. I planted flowers along the pathway, installed a little bird feeder in the backyard, and even painted the porch a warm, inviting shade of blue. I've put my heart and soul into this place, and every corner of it holds a memory of the effort I put in. The neighborhood itself is wonderful. It's filled with families and retirees, mostly people who've lived here for decades. I quickly became friends with Mr. and Mrs. Thompson next door. They're an older couple who love to garden and often exchange cuttings with me. Across the street, Jake and Emma, a younger couple, are always hosting barbecues and inviting neighbors over. It felt like I'd found a little community where everyone looked out for each other. And then, about a year ago, the entitled family moved in down the street. I remember the first time I saw them unloading their moving truck. Entitled mom, her face set in a permanent scowl, was barking orders at her husband, entitled dad, who looked more like a resigned chauffeur than an equal partner. Their 2 kids, a boy and a girl, were running wild, already leaving their toys scattered across the sidewalk. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. Moving is stressful, after all, but it didn't take long before I realized this family operated on a different set of rules, or rather, no rules at all. Within the first few weeks, their kids had trampled through my garden multiple times. They'd ride their bikes across my lawn like it was a racetrack, leaving tire marks on the grass. At first, I gently asked them to be careful, but the kids just gave me blank stares and continued as if I hadn't said a word. I decided to talk to entitled mom about it, hoping we could resolve it like reasonable adults. The first time I approached her, she was standing in her driveway, chatting loudly on her phone. I waited until she finished before introducing myself and politely explaining that her kids had been playing in my yard and had broken a few garden decorations. Her reaction? She gave me a dismissive wave and said, "Kids will be kids, you should be glad they're enjoying your garden, it means it's nice." I was stunned. I tried to clarify, saying that while I didn't mind them playing, I just wanted them to be a bit more careful. Her response was a condescending, "Well, maybe if you didn't have such fragile decorations, there wouldn't be a problem." Before turning her back on me and walking inside, I stood there, dumbfounded, realizing I was dealing with a different breed of entitlement. Fast forward to last Saturday. It was a beautiful morning, and I was enjoying my coffee on the porch. It had been a long week, and I was looking forward to a day of relaxation. I had just settled into my chair, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face, when I noticed entitled mom heading up my driveway with her kids trailing behind her. She looked determined, her strides purposeful, and I couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. I gave her a small wave, trying to be polite despite our previous interactions, but she didn't wave back. She marched right up to me, not even bothering with a greeting. "We need to talk," she declared, crossing her arms in front of her chest. I raised an eyebrow. "All right, what's this about?" I asked, setting my coffee down, expecting another complaint about something trivial. She didn't waste a second before launching into her speech. "Our family has outgrown our house," she began. "It's just too small for us now, and with the kids getting older, they need their own rooms. We've been looking for a bigger place, but the market is ridiculous right now." I nodded along, trying to figure out where she was going with this. I assumed she might be asking if I knew of any homes for sale in the area, which I didn't, but she continued without missing a beat. "So, we'll take this house off your hands," she said matter-of-factly, as if she were offering to buy an old piece of furniture from me. I blinked, stunned into silence for a moment. "I'm sorry, what?" I managed to ask. She smiled, clearly pleased with herself. You live alone, right? You don't need all this space, it's just wasted on you. My kids need their own rooms, and your backyard is perfect for the trampoline we want to get. It makes perfect sense for us to move in. You can find a smaller place that suits you better. I stared at her, half expecting her to start laughing and say it was all a joke, but her expression didn't change. She was completely serious. I let out a disbelieving chuckle. I'm not selling my house, I said, shaking my head. Her smile faltered, and she looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. Oh, come on, she huffed. You can't possibly need all this space. It's just selfish. My family needs it more, and besides, I'm willing to let you stay in the basement until you find somewhere else to go. It's a generous offer. I almost spit out my coffee. You're offering to let me live in my own basement? I asked, incredulous. Yes, she replied, nodding earnestly. That way, you have time to find a new place without rushing. It's a win-win situation. At that moment, I realized there was no reasoning with her. She genuinely believed she was doing me a favor. No, I said firmly, standing up. This is my home, and I'm not leaving. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like you to leave. Her face turned bright red, and she pointed a finger at me. You're being selfish, she shouted, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. You don't deserve this house. You're just one person, taking up space that a family needs. We'll be back, and we'll make sure this gets sorted out properly. With that, she stormed off, dragging her kids along with her. I watched her go, my hands shaking with anger and disbelief. As she disappeared down the street, I tried to process what had just happened. Was I on some hidden camera show? Was this a prank? But the anger bubbling up inside me told me otherwise. This woman was serious, and I had just experienced one of the most bizarre encounters of my life. I went inside, still reeling, and called my best friend, Kate, to tell her what had happened. Kate is my go-to person when things get crazy, and I needed someone to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. You won't believe what just happened, I said as soon as she picked up. Try me, Kate replied, laughing. I could tell she wasn't prepared for what I was about to say. After I recounted the whole ordeal, there was a brief silence on the other end of the line, followed by a loud, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Kate practically yelled. She tried to take your house? Like, just walk up and claim it? Yep, I said, pacing around my living room, and she was serious. Kate, she said she'd let me live in my own basement until I found a new place. This woman is out of her mind, Kate said, her voice filled with disbelief. You need to be careful, this isn't normal behavior. It sounds like she and her husband are troublemakers. Do you want me to come over? I was tempted to say yes, but I decided I needed to handle this on my own. No, it's okay, but I'm going to install some security cameras. I don't trust them not to try something stupid. After I hung up, I spent the rest of the day installing the cameras I'd ordered online a few weeks back. I hadn't had time to set them up before, but now it felt like an urgent task. I mounted one by the front door, one covering the driveway, and another overlooking the backyard. If the entitled family wanted to escalate this, at least I'd have footage of whatever nonsense they tried next. The next morning, I got a call from Mr. Thompson, my neighbor. Hey, I saw you setting up cameras yesterday, he said. Everything all right? I explained the situation to him, and his reaction was similar to Kate's. I can't believe they had the gall to do that, he said, sounding genuinely angry on my behalf. You know, they tried to bully me into letting their kids use my pool last summer. When I said no, entitled mom acted like I'd committed a crime. They've got a reputation for this sort of thing. Great, so it wasn't just me. This was their MO, find someone they deemed vulnerable, make outrageous demands, and throw a fit when they didn't get their way. It made my blood boil, but at least I knew I wasn't alone. The next couple of days were quiet, and I started to think that maybe they had finally backed off, but then, on Wednesday evening, there was another knock on my door. I checked the camera feed on my phone, and there she was again, entitled Mom, this time holding a folder in her hands. I debated whether to even answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door just a crack. What do you want? I asked, keeping my foot firmly behind the door. She flashed me a tight-lipped smile, the kind you give when you're pretending to be nice but are seething underneath. I brought you some paperwork, she said, holding up the folder like it was an official document. "I've drawn up an agreement for you to sign. It's just a simple contract saying you'll vacate the property within 30 days. We can help you pack, of course, and even cover your moving expenses." I stared at her, trying to figure out if she was joking, but her expression was dead serious. "Are you out of your mind?" I asked, finally finding my voice. "I'm not signing anything. This is my home, and you have no right to demand that I leave." Her smile dropped instantly, replaced with a look of pure venom. "You're making a big mistake," she hissed. "We've already spoken to our lawyer, and we're prepared to escalate this if we need to." I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. "Oh really?" I said, "And what exactly are you planning to do? Call the cops and tell them I won't hand over my house to you?" For a moment, she looked taken aback, like she hadn't expected me to stand up to her, but then she squared her shoulders and sneered. "You'll regret this," she said before turning on her heel and marching back down the driveway. I immediately called the non-emergency police line and explained what had happened. They advised me to keep an eye out and to call them if she returned or if they tried anything else. I also made sure to tell them about the fake contract she had brought with her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every little sound made me jump, and I found myself checking the camera feed every hour. Around 2 a.m., I spotted a figure lurking at the end of my driveway. I zoomed in and recognized entitled Dad. He was just standing there, staring at the house like he was plotting his next move. I called the police, and within minutes, a patrol car arrived. Entitled Dad must have seen the flashing lights because he took off running before they could approach him. The officers took a statement from me and promised to keep an eye on the area. The next day, I told my neighbors about the incident, and we all agreed to watch out for each other. We formed a sort of unofficial neighborhood watch, sharing updates and videos from our cameras. It was both comforting and infuriating to know that the entitled family had been harassing multiple people, using the same tactics. It's been a week now since the last incident. I haven't seen or heard from them again, but I'm not letting my guard down. The cameras are up. I've started locking my doors even during the day, and I'm keeping my phone close in case I need to call for help. Part of me wants to confront them, to tell them how disgusting their behavior is, but I know better. People like this don't respond to logic or reason. They see what they want, and they'll use every manipulative trick in the book to try and get it. This is my home, the place I worked so hard for, and I'm not about to let anyone take it from me. If they come back, they'll find out just how wrong they were to underestimate me.